Welcome to the Bowden Blitz ACC edition. I'm Joe Lisi, joined by former National Coach of the Year, Terry Bowden. Coach, the calm before the storm. This is the week leading up to the ACC Championship game between Duke and Virginia. We'll break it down a little bit later in the show. But I do want to get your thoughts about just the overall conference as a whole entering this weekend and the college football playoff rankings that came out that have Notre Dame ahead of Miami.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like they're buying the question, which team looked better down the line, or were they playing their best football? And that's even arguable that Miami is not playing right now as good as Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame lost their two games way back, the very beginning of the season, so they've got a stronger buildup to where they are now. But I have a hard time when you've played head-to-head. All that other stuff, to me, you almost got to throw it out the window. When you've played head-to-head, you got the same record. Neither team, and Notre Dame doesn't play a great schedule. But like we've been saying all year, Notre Dame is a team people want to have in the playoffs. They're a national team. Vanderbilt, I personally, I'd rather see Vanderbilt in the playoffs than Notre Dame, because I just think they're such a great story. But they're not going to make it. But Miami, I'm afraid they're not going to. I don't know how they move in without the voters moving them ahead of Notre Dame with no games left to play.
That's a great point. And I think also it's not just a head-to-head. They have had common opponents like Stanford and Pitt, that both Miami and Notre Dame had defeated NC State and Syracuse as well. So the body of work was there for the Miami Hurricanes, not just in the head-to-head, but how they dominated the rest of the field. And I know that Notre Dame had won 10 straight since they dropped the first game to the Hurricanes in week 2 to Texas A&M and Marcel Reed. But where is the marquee victory for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish? The 10 victories, Coach, came against opponents with a combined winning percentage and overall record of 54 and 65, which was sub 500. So I understand there's brand recognition there, but aren't those teams that Notre Dame should beat throughout the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you 100% on this thing. I mean, we all know what Notre Dame is. They're a national brand, and they get privilege. They get a position that other schools don't get, and they continue not to be aligned with a conference. They don't play in a conference championship game. That they could enhance the value of their schedule because you're going to play a very good team there. I guess they could say Southern Cal is that big name, but Southern Cal didn't knock everybody's socks off with their season this year. And so, again, I'm not sure I can see anywhere where I could justify, based on the body of work, that Miami are their own worst enemies. They lost a couple of games that they should never have lost. But looking at the body of work and all the other factors, and then the most important thing is, hey, we played each other and we beat you. To me, I just don't know that you can use anything else more important than that.
I agree. And, you know, if head-to-head isn't going to matter, we're going to start to see these marquee matchups that take place in the early part of the season. Texas and Ohio State, Miami, Notre Dame go by the way of the side, right? Because if teams aren't going to get credit for knocking off a top 10 opponent in the early part of the season, they might as well just schedule cupcakes out of conference and just play the conference schedule and see where the chips fall at the end of the regular season. Before we move on, I do want to ask you this, because the committee chairman came out and had said, well, nothing's written in stone, that there's the possibility that teams that are in certain spots that don't play next week, a la Notre Dame and Miami, potentially could move up in position. And how is that possible, Coach, if they're not playing football this coming weekend?
Well, I think if you read between the lines, they're having to readjust a little bit when they're seeing the outcomes and the possibilities of what they've got themselves into, and they want to make sure they don't screw this thing up. And the biggest concern, I think, what if Duke wins and they're not even they're not even going to get an ACC team in, and then you've got to get one in. You've got to look to Miami as being your highest ranked team because you're going to probably get a couple of G5 conference champions in the playoffs, which they never intended it to do. And so it'll be interesting right now what they do. But I do think, as you see some of the comments being made by members of the selection committee, they're looking at a lot of things, and they're also into some uncharted waters.
They are. And you bring up Duke. We'll take a look at their head coach, Manny Diaz, to get the Duke Blue Devils to an ACC championship. Solid work in year number 2. He led his team to a bowl appearance last year. Did get Darian Mensah, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the transfer portal this year, 7-5 overall, 6-2 in the conference. We don't see a coach right now named for Penn State. He was a hot commodity when Duke was there with only 1 or 2 losses. Assuming that maybe he does take care of business and knock off Virginia, is the possibility of Manny Diaz moving to Happy Valley still on the table?
Well, he has been there. They know what he can do. He's had success at his position, and he's had success as a head coach. So, Penn State, by waiting this late, now you got to wonder who they're going to get and what move they can make. So Manny Diaz may fall back into that category. But I think what's going on lately, he has not had the season he thought he would have. A 7-5, they may not even get you into the college playoffs if you win your conference. And so I don't know if he's as hot as he was earlier when they were winning, and even last year. But I do think he's going to be one they've got to consider at Penn State.
I agree, and we'll take a look at their former head coach, James Franklin. He inked a deal 4 years with the Virginia Tech Hokies. He's looking to take them back to prominence, potentially get to 8 or 9 wins in year number 1. You see his overall record this year, 3-3, but this was a team that was pegged as a top 5 team at the start of the year. I think expectations in Blacksburg, coach, are a little bit tempered. I do feel that James Franklin is a good fit with the Hokies. If you're looking to get back to 8-4, 9-3, he's the coach to potentially get it. He understands the landscape as well in the Northeast.
Yeah, and he's shown he can do it. His body of work, different programs. I always like to see a head coach who's won at different places, who's taken his philosophy, his coaches, his abilities to do to different universities, and has won in different situations. And James Franklin's done just that. When you look at his overall 4-year record, 104-45, I mean, that's a pretty dang good record to have right there. And so it'll be interesting where he goes with Virginia Tech. I do think it's a good hire. I think he brings a lot of class to that program. He'll immediately. Now, will he get them to say, okay, are we going to jump into NIL and the whole money revenue thing and go to the portal and get good players? Because that's the whole question. Not just are you going to compete with the ACC, because the ACC is falling really below the Big 12. And so you've got to ask yourself, if you want to have a Texas Tech type of season, that type of effect on a team, it's going to take some money going into their NILs.
It will. And we saw Dabo Swinney today come out and also say, there is no tomorrow. He has to attack the transfer portal. Thoughts about that?
Yeah.
His team is back to 7 wins. They're going to go to a bowl. In order for Clemson to get back to prominence, coach, they need elite talent on both sides of the ball, and they have to dive into the transfer portal 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Dabo's prideful, but he's not dumb. He's not dumb. He knows what he made a mistake, I think. He tried to stay with values that we all love. We love the guy that develops within the program, understands the culture, is the perfect fit. Those are all the ways in which he built that championship team over the years. And now you've got to go out there and change a little bit. But you know what? If you're going to coach longer than 1 decade, which he has, you better be willing to change and adapt how you run offense, how you run defense, the way you recruit, and all those things. And that's the way it is at Clemson. It'll be a big move for him that they needed to do.
When we come back, we'll dive into some more coaches and touch on the ACC Championship game. Coming right back. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz, Joe Lisi and Coach Bowden breaking down the 2025 ACC Championship game between Duke and Virginia. We'll get into that in just a couple of minutes. But, Coach, some more coaching news today. Georgia Tech inks Brent Key to another extension. He's going to stay at his alma mater. This was a hot coach, potentially linked to schools like Penn State. Thoughts about keeping Brent Key in Atlanta to potentially lead this team to an ACC championship?
Well, he's a nice fit. That's his school. He's fit there. He's a very physical, likes to run the football. I think he's a perfect fit for them. I think you've got to be careful as a head coach. You have a great year. It's at some of these schools that don't have great years every year, and you feel like this can happen all the time. Then after you stay there, all of a sudden it goes back down to 8-4, 7 wins, 8 wins, and they can't get over the hump. You look at David Clausen, what happened to him at Wake Forest. He was a heck of a coach. Doran, you have to wonder at NC State where he's going to go completely with that. I just think whether you like what Lane Kiffin did at Ole Miss or not, if you have aspirations of winning championships, if you have a great year and you have a chance to move, you probably need to move.
Yeah, and now with Penn State, we heard them about a few days ago potentially being linked to Kalani Sitake at BYU. Yeah. BYU is working on an extension with Sitake. And then after that news broke, Jeff Brom became the front runner for the Penn State job, and he had come out today and a number of different predictive markets had Jeff Brom as the number one head coach potential candidate for the Nittany Lions. He came out today, Coach, and said he told the organization and the school he's not looking at other jobs. He wants to stay with the Cardinals, his alma mater. If they keep Jeff Brom, again, puts more pressure not only on other teams, but more pressure on Penn State to really get it right over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and again, I mean, and there are times where when you hire a coordinator or you do something, it gets to the point where you don't want to put all your money into a guy you're not sure about. But we'll see where they go and whether they dip into the NFL ranks or whether they talk someone into changing their job. I've always felt that, like I said, Tony Elliot was a perfect kind of fit for that job. Now, I think he signed a new contract at Virginia, but at Virginia, again, is another one of those programs. Be careful if you think you can do it every year there, because I'm not sure you can. But there are some coaches out there that I think, even at Penn State, you go back again, even if they've signed a new contract or agreed to something, you got to go back and say, okay, let's see, is there anything else we can do? These things aren't over till they're over. And there is a lot of negotiation that can go on.
And we'll see exactly what transpires for both Georgia Tech and Louisville moving forward. We'll see their bowl matchups after this weekend, after the ACC Championship game and all the rest of the championship games and the top 12 teams in the college football playoff. Let's dive into the title game. It's an 8 o'clock kick. It is in Charlotte. It's a rematch of a game that Virginia took it to Duke on the road just about a month ago. Yeah. They had a 31-3 lead. They were 4.5-point underdogs in Durham. And when you look at this matchup again, now Virginia is laying 3.5. I think the biggest thing, Coach, for Duke is potentially they're not at home. This was a 500 football team throughout 25, 3-3 overall, but a better road team at 4-2. Maybe they have a shot to potentially pull off the upset.
Well, and the other thing is, again, although they got wiped out pretty good the last time they played Virginia, the line says to me most people think it's going to be a pretty close football game. And I said this to you yesterday, I don't like second games in the same year. When you won the first one, there's a good chance you're going to get beaten the second one. That's just the way it goes. They make corrections. A quarterback like Menza, he'll have watched all that video. He'll know what you're going to try to do to confuse him, to defend against him. And he is the kind of guy that can turn a game around real quick. He is an explosive quarterback with great skills. I think Chandler at Virginia, they're an overall solid football team. I think you've got much more explosive possibilities at Duke. And so I'm kind of thinking I'm going to look at the team that lost the last one with a chance to come back. I know because I've been there. I've watched my father beat Florida during the regular season. and get stuck playing them again in the national championship game 1996, lost 52-20. It's just hard to win twice. We'll talk about that with some of these teams that are replaying people, BYU, Texas Tech, and things like that, other leagues. It's a tough one. And so Duke, I can see Mensa having a great ball game and really making this thing interesting.
Mensa's had a fantastic year. He's thrown for 3,450 yards, 67% completion percentage, 28 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and again, has stepped up in big matchups. It's can that defense that's given up 29 points per game, Coach, shut down the rushing attack of Virginia, because Virginia in the first matchup averaged well over 5 yards per carry. They rushed for over 200 yards. That front seven needs to adjust. Do you feel like Manny Diaz, from a defensive perspective, can at least game plan to put his team in a position defensively to make some plays?
Well, if he can't, let's go back to that Penn State issue. They shouldn't be looking at him if he can't, because he's a defensive mind guy. He's a defensive coordinator. He should know what to do to make the adjustments that you need to make, and they have not had the defense that you need them to have. They have a quarterback, but they don't have the defense that's been successful this year. And so he needs to make the adjustments. And again, with having a game before and being a team that lost the first one, much more likely that you'll see some schemes and some things they haven't done before. The team that people don't think can win, it's much more likely they'll come out and show a few things that they haven't done earlier in the year.
The rushing attack for Virginia really exploited that secondary. After they were able to run for basically 6 yards per carry and 224 yards on the ground, Coach, they threw for 300 over the top of that secondary. So how important is it, the rushing attack, to benefit potentially the secondary, right?
Oh, it does. Again, if you can run the football and force the secondary, again, not to have to cover the deep ball all the time, the running game helps the passing game every time. As we see some of these teams toward the playoffs, conference championships, the teams that have the better running attack, they're going to have the best chance to do well late in the season.
When we come back, more ACC Championship talk. We'll talk about the Virginia Cavaliers and Tony Elliot coming up next. All right, back on the Bowden Blitz, Joe Lisi and Coach Bowden previewing the ACC Championship game between Duke and Virginia, 8 o'clock kick in Charlotte. We talked about the Duke side of things with Manny Diaz. Tony Elliot has done a fantastic job in Charlottesville. This team is 10-2 overall, battle-tested on the road with a 4-1 overall record, 6-1 at home. Coach, when you look at both of their losses, they've lost 2 games to NC State and Wake Forest by a total of 11 points only. They don't get blown out in big matchups, and that's why they're favored in this ball game. Tony Elliott, you know him very well. He has done and coached this team up in a great job in 2025.
And we talk about some of the bigger teams that went into the NIL, the portal, and got better players. Virginia's another one of those football teams that went in and found a lot of football players to help build their football team. But, Tony Elliott was a coordinator running back coach at Clemson, and I used to go watch his drills and watch how intense he coached running backs. And I think you see that with their football team. They're going to run the football at UVA. And they've got a quarterback that if he plays clean, if he manages the offense, he's kind of a coach's kid on the field. It's kind of a perfect mix for what they do. And so Virginia's checking all the boxes. When I look at Duke, I'm thinking, it's that old play you twice. We got beat earlier. We're going to get you this time. And I've been through it. And I keep thinking about that. But if you're looking at the team that's playing better defense, they held Duke to their lowest offensive total of the year the last time they played them. So it's going to be up to Mensa. Mensa's the answer to Duke's problems. If he can have a great day, throw touchdowns and not interceptions and not turnovers and have big plays, that's going to be their key because they're going to give up some points.
That now Virginia has recorded 30 sacks on the year. Chandler Morris has had a solid season, coach, 65% completion percentage, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Was running a little bit more in the early part of the season, right? Had 2 big touchdown runs against Florida State in the home win in Charlottesville. He can run, but he's not as mobile as some of these other guys. Do you feel that Elliott utilizes his mobility in this matchup to put some pressure on Duke, or they're going to go status quo? Whatever worked in game 1 will work in game number 2.
No, I think you got to mix it up just a little bit. You can't go in there just expecting the other team just to lay down and not correct their mistakes. The quarterback, Chandler got hurt. Chandler Morris got hurt in the middle of the season, missed a game, and they lost a game with him hurt. And so with him coming back, he has not run it as much. I do think that's a big part of their offense, letting him get yardage when necessary. He's not a great dual threat quarterback, but he's a much better runner than a lot of people give him credit for. So I think that's a big part of their ability to win a ball game. And maybe one of the biggest things in Virginia's favor is that if it's a close ball game, they win close games. They've won close games all year, and the ones they've lost have been close too. But they have been a team that find a way to win late in the game, and the quarterback doesn't make mistakes late. And so that's why I think Virginia is the favorite in this one, and why most people think they will win, unless you take into consideration the fact that it's a second game between the same two teams.
Now, when you look at Virginia as a whole, the top 3 wide receivers, coach, leading wide receivers, all upperclassmen, seniors. Very important in a game like this, right? You want to roll with some seniors and juniors as opposed to some other underclassmen in this type of ball game.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said it's not just about talent. When you get to the postseason, to the championship of the conference, it's veteran talent. Guys that have been in the battle before, battle tested, and guys that it means a lot to. Hey, this is my last year. I need to get it done this year. The NFL needs to see me play now. Those are all factors that get you out there with those guys not feeling like there's a tomorrow to show what they can do. They need to show it now. So I think those guys need to come through. A good veteran team is going to be important. I think Virginia has a pretty good veteran team.
Now, if Virginia does pull off the victory, right, their favorite, you like Duke, in the college football playoff, big picture, is this a team, depending upon margin of victory on Saturday night, that potentially can win a game or 2 in the college football playoff?
You talk about Virginia now, if they win, because I don't think, because Duke won't make it. Yeah, you know what? I have not been impressed enough with the overall ACC when I compare them to the Big Ten and the SEC and even Texas Tech. I think getting there is one thing. Progressing through the playoff is something else. I don't know who they would come against. Maybe they would start against someone that's not one of the top teams. But I haven't pegged the ACC winners or ACC teams when they get there going very far this year.
We'll see you next week. For Coach Bowden, I'm Joe Lisi. Enjoy the Saturday night game. We'll see you next week.